Hello, welcome to this next tutorial. Today we're going to be creating this. Check it out. Okay, first things first, let's create a new composition and we'll call this Universal. Leave the settings as they are, no problem at all there. And now we will create a new solid and I will name this just Element because we're going to be using Element 3D, the awesome plugin from Video Copilot. Just drag that onto there. Scene setup. There she is, the wonderful interface. And we're going to create a sphere. This is going to be our planet Earth. What we're going to do is just play with these segments here. These are basically just going to up the resolution of the actual sphere itself. So when we zoom in, we see it nice and crisp. Next thing I'm going to do is if I just go to our textures there, and I'm going to drag in the diffuse layer, which is basically a color layer of the Earth. And some lights, which is basically the Earth at night, a normal map into the normal bump, and the specular into the glossiness. And that basically just builds up a planet Earth of various layers of normal spec, bumps and bits and bobs like that. And we're just going to now fiddle around with the UV layout. We'll just change that down to sphere, just so it's not so stretched. That looks pretty nice. Maybe so I look around here, look at the intensity, the illumination, just so you can see the actual lights appearing there just a bit. There we are. We'll need to see those a little bit later on. And if we play with the environments just to give it a little bit more drama to it, really. It's not important that it looks like it's really in space. We're just trying to recreate the actual rough look and animation as well. So if you change this to standard shader, you actually get a kind of better look of the Earth, but I don't think that's really what we're looking for. So if we switch back to physical shader, and we'll keep it that way. Click OK. Change our resolution up to full. Next thing is we'll create a camera, and we'll just zoom in on that. Looks pretty good already. So what we've got is group 1, and in our, let's see, so these rotation options here is all you'll need is Y, and we're going to set a little rotation on that. We'll do that in a minute probably. For now we're going to just get some stars in there just for our background. Let's drag those into the bottom. They're quite busy, these stars. I'll just scale those down. So yeah, we can see we've got kind of look in there. I will make those a 3D layer perhaps, or I might just animate them later. So we'll leave those there for now. Next thing we want to do is we want to get our copy, our text in. So we type Universal, and the font is Copperplate Regular. I'm not sure that is the actual font, but yeah, it's close enough, hey? Just get that into the right sort of area, turn the layer off, and so we go into here, extrude. Oh no, I've forgotten to do something. I need to go back into our setup here, and we need to go to Custom Layers, Custom Text Maps, and select Universal. Now we can go back into here and extrude, and that will give us our universal extruded text that we can just excuse me again, plonk in front of our planet. There we go, and we just need to sort of roughly get it into a spot that looks kind of like it is, like the Universal logo. That is, there's been so many different versions of this logo. Ident, it's not really gospel how you do it, I think. So let's put that there. It's put it around the other side. That's just because we rotated the Earth slightly. And probably a better way to do this is to go back into our element setup and change that into group 2. So that way we can animate it separately from group 1. So we've got our universal type separated from the Earth. But in here you can still see that it's all part of the same lockup. So if we animate the camera around, it still follows. Okay. So the next thing we want to have a look at is our deform. What we need to do is just bend that universal. We need to bend that universal text just around our planet just a little bit. So if we go to enable that and just bend these options here, we can get something nice going on. Sorry, I'm just fiddling around here a little bit. I don't want to do that. Yep, just that's not going to work. No. Yep, that's it. So it's basically the bend direction and the bend angle is really what you're looking for. Just to bend that round. Just scale that down a little bit. Yeah, that looks okay. I'll just fiddle around with the actual leading here and the height of the copy, just to give it a little bit of, whoops, sort that out. There we are. And maybe it needs to be a little bit further away from the planet. Excuse me. Woo! And yeah, just pull that away there. Maybe that'd be a little bit better. That's it. I mean, there's no real right or wrong, I don't think. It's just what feels right for you, and how well it represents the actual ident itself will work. So now if we go down to our render settings, and we can adjust the exposure just to brighten up the scene a little bit. We'll do an adjustment layer later, I'm sure. And I'll turn the ambient occlusion on just to get some nice shadowing between our letters. Again, I'll probably fiddle with that a little bit later on as well. Okay. Let me just line this up just so it's roughly centered. And then in our camera, we'll just get some keyframes. A keyframe that we'll move those along the timeline just to about 20 or 22, 23 seconds, whatever feels right in the animation. I think it's about 20 to 22 seconds or something like that. So we've got that. So that's our end point of the animation. Okay. Now we go to our environment. We can rotate the environment just to create some different lighting. I may have to go back into the actual scene setup and change the textures of the actual front and maybe the sides of the Universal logo there. Maybe something metallic using some scratches and stuff. This is Video Copilot's Pro Shaders for Element. Really awesome. I'll just double up the UVs there just to give it a little bit more detail. And on the sides, yeah, maybe just more of a scratchy gold. That looks a little bit better. Yeah, up that exposure. Rotate that environment. So you get a little bit of light passing over the top, which helps to, yeah, that sort of helps a little bit to give it a little bit more depth. Okay. And the next thing we want to be doing is we want to rotate this universal copy around the Earth, just so it marries up with pretty much what's happening. So it just comes out from the horizon and bends around and appears just in front, quite slowly. We'll sort of key that there, something like there, and we'll move it around. There we are. Again, there we are. Okay. Need to make sure the planet moves too. So if we alt click on the Y rotation and we type times -5, and that will just get slow rotation going. There we go. So apart from the camera movement and maybe some light setup, we're almost there. Just create a light, a parallel light, just to simulate some sun. And we can move the actual aim point around just to get something nice. Let's just go to the transform here and move the actual position, point of interest around. We'll probably switch it around to the other side. Just that's not too bad. Okay. Next thing we want to do is just create an adjustment layer, and on there we'll just put some, let's see, some curves, maybe just a quick contrast curve on there, just to bring out the highlights a little bit more. There we are. That looks good. Yeah, that's cool. Now we need to set up our camera movement, and this is the bit that can get quite tricky. So we just bring our timeline down to the front here, and maybe just bring it forward a little bit, and then you can see where you need to be putting the camera. So we can just pull in here, keep pushing in. The resolution of my textures are going to be a little bit off. I'm just using relatively low textures here. I'm sure you could find higher res textures for the Earth. So we just pull in here. We rotate the camera around in Z, just like the actual logo, so the actual universal text is coming up from the sort of top right of the planet. And then we can push in a little bit further. See our resolution is dying, don't worry about it. We'll also fix that little weirdness on the N as well. That's just caused by our texture messing up, but we'll fix that. Just a bit more rotation on there, and then move our keyframes back to the start, and fingers crossed, straight forward, out comes the U, let's half that down, half res, out comes the U, the N, the I, the, yeah, that's not too bad. Wow, okay, that's it. So just right click on these, keyframe assistant and easy ease, just to give it a little bit more smoothness. Okay, let's go back into our scene setup here, and what we're going to do is go into our, what am I looking for? Yeah, turn up the lights a little bit, the intensity of the illumination. Maybe change our environment setup a little bit of contrast on the input curve, just for a bit more contrast curve. And maybe change the rotation start point of the planet as well. Something like that might work. It just all depends on where you want it to start and where you want it to end up. There, so. And I know they have various different versions of this depending on what movie you're watching, so it kind of works pretty well anyway. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this light, I think, and maybe we'll move it over to the other side just for a little bit more of a sunshine feel on the other side of the planet there. Just move this around. And that way the actual UNI appears over more darkness, and then as it comes out it's sort of more of a half Earth there. Cool, maybe I'll brighten that up a little bit there. Okay, let's put the exposure up a little bit, and maybe we can fiddle around with the environment rotation as well. So you can also keyframe that. So if I keyframe the rotation there, and then put it back here, So you can see the actual the shine of the rotation on the actual text there is moving as well. This gives it a little bit more extra. Every little bit helps, I think, with this. Okay, so let's have a look at some other environments on this one. And like I said, you can kind of do what you want, really. Let's see this. Oh, that's not what we want. So we'd have to lower the exposure on that one a fair bit. And that's kind of like an old Western retro style Universal, which is great if you're watching a Western. But I'm going to put something else on here. Maybe whatever. Let's do that. So change the rotation of. Nope, we want group 2. Not that. No, we want the actual environment. There we are. Get this every second. There we are. Let's find a good spot. Let's create another light. Maybe a spotlight, slight bit of yellowness. Sorry, a point light we want. And that way we can create our own extra light setup over the whole scene. We can also animate that as well. So if we start it there, oops, keyframe there, pull that back, and then move that keyframe right back to the start. And that way we can have that extra light moving across the scene as well. Just close up the comp area. Let's go in and try and fix this strange polygon clipping that we've got going on behind here. I think we might have to just fiddle around with the bevels a little bit to get this one working. So if we go into our, let's see, you can just play with what works, but I think we might need to just get the bevel the same. So the same on the front and the same on the back, so it doesn't have any weird bits of mesh that are overlapping, which is probably the cause. Might not be, but it might be. There we are, that's fixed it. And it looks a hell of a lot better as well. Universal. Cool. Let's close that up there. And what we're going to do now is we'll make a new solid. And we're going to just make a vignette. I think, why not? For a little bit more extra contrast and look. That's what they do, isn't it? Just subtract that over and feather the mask. Maybe expand it out a little bit. There we are. On the contrast curve of our adjustment layer. Let's take some red out. Some green. Contrast on the green. And the blue. Just crank that up a little bit. There we are. It's nothing like I did it the first time round, but that's how it is. It's always different. And because you spend a lot of the time playing and experimenting with what you can do, you tend to get different results each time. And you tend to get better at it as well, so keep practicing. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to create a glow, so we'll duplicate that layer and then turn off group 2 of that layer, which is the actual universal, because we don't want that to appear in our glow. So let's select glow in our effects, drag that over to the element layer behind, just lower the threshold a little bit. You should see some glowing appearing. There we are. Up the intensity a little bit. Lower that threshold. Yes. So what happens here? The glow radius stays the same. I'll just make the colours a bit more bluey. There we go. So we may have to change the size of the radius as the camera pulls away. So it's huge there. Well, that's not what we want. And it's a little bit smaller there, which is a bit more what we want. So we key that there, and then we'll lower it down towards the end. Probably want to. That's not too bad. Yeah. For a rush job anyway, it's not too bad. You get the idea, hey? Okay. So now we're going to take our stars, and we're just going to move them slightly in the scene as the camera moves. So we'll just push that up there, not down, up. And as it pulls away, the stars appear to move with the camera. Just doing ease on that. And there we are. So as we pull out, it all looks like it's sitting in one scene. Okay. Maybe we'll do some lens flares now. So a new solid, lens flare. Let's see, put the lens flare, drag that on, find it, there it is. Oh, it's gone down there. Let's put that back up to the top. Here we are. And we will add that over. You can screen it or add it. Add will be a little bit brighter than screening. I tend to do that if we're looking for more dramatic stuff. We'll move that down to 105. Just move it off a little bit, just to simulate a sun or something else that might be there. Put that up there. And we're going to key the center, just maybe move it away when we're closer up. And as the camera pulls away and we get our animation going, we'll just move it down a little bit just so we get a little bit of movement. And it appears that we've pulled away and you'd see a bit more sun, I guess. Okay, so put an easy ease on those. Excellent. There we go. Universal. It's a bit bright actually. So maybe I'll leave it, maybe I won't. Let's do a what am I looking for here? A tint. There we are. Just to lower up that saturation a little bit. Pull the curve down there. See, that's looking pretty good. Universal. Okay. Yeah, let's lower that down just a bit. That was a bit much, right? There we go. There we go. We don't want it just to be too unrealistic, do we? Okay. There we go, guys. I think that probably covers it. Hope it works for you. Best of luck with it, and I hope you enjoyed it. Catch you next time.